Hi guys, in this discussion of How I Became a Hindu, the book by Goel, we will discuss Goel's discussion of a Russian author Kravchenko, a metallurgical engineer. This part is very important because this shows some examples of how communist ecosystems and media and academia worked back in those days and its similarities with how things happen today. I mentioned my suspicions to my boss. The suspicions being his Sitaram Goel's gradual findings of holes in Soviet Union's propaganda. He smiled and asked me to read Viktor Kravchenko's I Chose Freedom, which had appeared some time earlier. I now remember that my boss had offered to lend me a copy of this book a few months ago and that I had turned it down with the contemptuous remark that I did not want to waste my time on imperialist propaganda literature. I borrowed the book from him now and read it non-stop. The earlier experience of reading Lasky's Communism, Harold Lasky's book Communism, Harold Lasky. The earlier experience of reading Lasky's Communism was repeated. Communism now lay in shambles all around me. This sentence is very important because some chapters ago, when Sitaram Goel read the book Communism by Harold Lasky, he had said the same thing about Mahatma Gandhi. He read that book, he borrowed it from his college library, read it all night, and in the morning he thought to himself, Gandhism now lay in shambles all around me. And now when he reads Kravchenko, he says to himself, Communism now lay in shambles all around me. I could now understand why my boss, an enthusiastic party liner earlier, his Marwari communist boss, had shown no enthusiasm for the new party line adopted in February 1948. His reading of Kravchenko's book had considerably cooled his enthusiasm for the Soviet Union. He submitted as much when I questioned him the next day. Kravchenko. This is a very interesting story. Kravchenko, an eminent metallurgical engineer in the Soviet Union, had been sent to Washington during the Second World War to look after military supplies under the Lend-Lease program. He had defected to the West after some time and written his book as his testament to truth about the Soviet Union. The book became very successful because it was very controversial and saw several editions in quick succession in several languages of the world. I myself was to translate and publish it in Hindi. The communist press denounced the book as well as its author in a very strong language. At the very time that I first read it, Kravchenko was fighting a prolonged defamation case against a famous French magazine published from Paris. The magazine had described him as a drunkard, a liar, a traitor, and so on. The Manchester Guardian was publishing their proceedings of the case in great detail day after day. An airmail edition of this English daily was regularly received in the British Information Service Library at Calcutta. So you see the pattern. The magazine described him as a drunkard, a liar, a traitor, and so on. So their argument is not that Kravchenko is right or wrong. Their argument is that Kravchenko is a bad person. I followed the Kravchenko case in the Manchester Guardian with great interest. Any lurking doubts that might have remained in my mind about the truth of what Kravchenko had stated were removed by this case. The Soviet embassy in Paris was participating in the defense by the French magazine on the plea that the reputation of their country was involved. The embassy made many witnesses from the Soviet Union take the stand in the Paris court. Most of the famous communists as well as fellow travelers from all over Western Europe were also enlisted against Kravchenko. I was amazed to witness, this is a very important part because this is very relevant even today. I was amazed to witness a drama in which while Kravchenko marshaled facts and figures derived mostly from official Soviet publications in defense of what he had written in his book, a whole battery of communist bigwigs had nothing better than standard communist swearology to hurl at him. Swearology meaning swear words, curses and abusive words. So Kravchenko is arguing his case based on facts he gets from Soviet sources, but Soviets denounce that argument with no facts, with just swears and swear words and abuses. One episode was very revealing. It was the communist contention that Kravchenko was not at all an eminent metallurgical engineer which he had made himself out to be in his book. Kravchenko produced a copy of Pravda, in which Molotov had described him by name as one of the most eminent metallurgical engineers being put in charge of the new Soviet metallurgical factory in Vladivostok. Next day, Kravchenko's old professor of engineering from Leningrad University appeared in the court and testified that Kravchenko was indeed a brilliant metallurgical engineer and one of his best students. The professor had left Leningrad in the aftermath of the German invasion and was hiding somewhere in Western Europe to avoid repatriation by the Western powers in keeping with a post-war agreement with the Soviet government. Another great book which I came across in quick succession was Stalin's Russia by the famous French socialist Susan Labin. She had described in great detail all facets of the Soviet Union and documented her version very meticulously from Soviet sources. It was an hair-raising account. I was now ashamed of myself. Why had I not cared to study the life in the Soviet Union before becoming a rabid communist? Ramswarup's cryptic comment was, "Facts about the Soviet Union have always been known, mostly from Soviet sources. There is not much difference about those facts between the communists and those who are opposed to communism, so no one's disagreeing about the facts. What makes the difference is the way you interpret those facts, and your interpretation again is a matter of which very much depends upon your sense of values, and the culture from which those values are derived."